How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Agave and Cactus Talk. Today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different to agave and cactus, but still in the same realm. I'll say that much. And this is California native plants, right? And products that you can make from them. And today I'm going to be talking about a specific product, right, that we're making here on the farm, which is a balm salve, and why we started to create this, right? So here on our farm, sustainability is really at the forefront of our mission, right? And we've talked about how I had a lot of errors when I first developed the agave farm, and I tried to grow kind of like the Mexicans that grow agave in Mexico in a monoculture, and I also tried to clear land and all types of stuff. And now we're restoring all of this land back, but thank God I only did a few acres, because 99% of my land is still virgin land, which, if you don't know what virgin land is, that means it's still its native ecosystem and has never been farmed or built on or messed with, really. So we wanted to find a way to continue, obviously, to grow agave cactus, but we wanted to maintain all of the natives in the native ecosystem, right? So we arrived at this, new way, I would call it, or old way, maybe it's a better term here, because a lot of the inspiration for our farm came from, my parents, my grandparents, indigenous knowledge from the United States and Mexico. And, it's like we put it all in a big old melting pot and somehow got our farm, right? But one big thing I realized over the years was that I really needed to ally with nature to make the agave and cactus work, right? Instead of getting rid of the natives, I needed the natives to prosper, to maintain a nice, availability of food for the wildlife out here, right? So now, a decade into the farm, we have double the coyotes, we have double the jackrabbits, probably triple or quadruple the ground squirrels. We have now burrowing owls that were non-existent. We have, particularly cool rodents, right? Like the kangaroo rat, which is now being, put up as a candidate for possibly becoming an endangered species, right? Same with the burrowing owls, actually. But the point is, after allying with nature, we started to see so many positive results for our agave and cactus farm, and we realized, the indigenous maybe had something there. Not destroying the ecosystem, but laying your farm on top of it. Almost like a GIS system, if you've ever done some engineering work, but, overlaying it. So now, instead of clearing a land or any fucking plant, we're only getting rid of the dead plants. Some ugly looking plants, we'll cut them back to their base so they grow back all beautifully. Plants, some of them have never been managed, right? But the majority we don't touch. And there's all this space. Right now I'm walking my goats, and the native plants probably occupy, while it does look like a large portion of the land, probably less than 1% of the land, right? So it's like for every square foot of native plants, there's 99 that are empty. And empty is relative. There are some grasses there, but many of this ground cover is actually invasive from Europe, stuff like stork's bill. We do have a lot of native grasses, thank God, here on the land, because it's still virgin and hasn't really been tainted. And that's why, my goats can eat very well. Let's go, guys. But getting back to the point that in all of this open space is where we're going to start growing, the agave and cactus, instead of, getting rid of the natives, right? And essentially, the way I'm looking at it is kind of how the indigenous looked at it. while I maintained my native ecosystem, I educated myself. I found out what all these plants are, right? I found out what their, uses were by different indigenous groups. And now I look at the farm way differently, right? Instead of seeing acres and acres of creosote scrubland, I see, lots of, potential in the creosote, and now I'm farming it, right? So the creosote and ambrosia dumosa, which is the two main ingredients in the product I'll be talking about today, we're seeding the crap out of and making much more, plants available, right? Because if we're going to be making products out of it, we don't want to lower the population of these plants in the native ecosystem. We want to increase it, right? So it's real interesting because you start to look at stuff a lot differently when you view the ecosystem in this way. And I'll give the example that a lot of people, I've talked about this before, think that virgin land like this, or oak lands, or the pinon pine forest, all of these systems were wild or just happened to be there, but they were selectively managed by these indigenous groups, right? And in this area, instead of now looking at all this land as some, wild thing, I'm like, holy shit, these guys were farming the land. Because every single plant that I have in this ecosystem, where these indigenous groups live for thousands of years and manage the plants much like I am, getting rid of dead ones for, having fuel that they could use, and then moving animals right through hunting and actively grazing those animals by knowing how to move them, right? And then also incorporating fire to allow for getting rid of some selective species that they maybe didn't like as much, right? But now I look at the land and I'm like, wow, I've got creosote, I've got that is Larea tridentata. I've got white bursage, which is the second most. So creosote's the most populous plant. Then white bursage is the second most populous plant, which is also known as white sage, although many names or many plants carry that name. But that is Ambrosia dumosa. Now I also have cheese bush or burro bush, which is Ambrosia salsosa. I have golden rayless, what do you call it? Damn it, forget the name now. But, rayless golden heads. Yeah, so we got rayless golden heads. Those are really beautiful plants. We have, let's see, what else is out here, right? We have the Mojave aster, right, or woody aster. We have different types of buckwheat, like California buckwheat, as well as red and rose, or red and white buckwheat, or is that rose and white? I'm not sure. It's that little pink buckwheat that's very low to the ground. Well, the point I'm making here, I'm not going to list every fucking species I have. I have lots of them. The point that I'm making is, once I learned to identify all these plants, and now I walk around and I see every plant and I'm like, wow, it's this guy, or oh, it's that guy, or this one. I realized every single plant was planted strategic or allowed to proliferate strategically, right? Because these indigenous people were using the creosotes for all types of uses, as well as this Ambrosia dumosa, right? And they allowed these plants to also proliferate a lot, right? Kind of how I was describing earlier, right? Like the Amazon food forest that people thought was wild was crafted by the indigenous. And it looks to be like this California indigenous, or we'll call it native plants, are also indigenous crafted. Whew. Out of breath, sorry I have to chase my goats, those sons of bitches. But anyways, so yeah, this area, every plant that I'm seeing has a use that was of prime importance for the indigenous, which in this area would have been, Serrano, Paiute, different groups like that. But holy fuck, these guys run fast. The main point, right, that I'm making here is that everything now, when you identify it, you see, holy shit, they maybe had this kept around for a reason, right? And the ambrosia dumosa, for example, has lots of, benefits. The creosote, the gold, or the rayless golden head, ambrosia salsosa, they were herbal plants for these groups, and they utilized them for, teas, salves, balms, different types of ointments, tinctures, and I started to see this was a medicinal forest for them. Many of these plants maybe did not create food for them, or could not be consumed so readily, but they kept this as a herb forest, or as a herb ecosystem, right? And that's really cool to see, right? Because there's not a plant here that didn't have a use. But point being, right, now we see all these plants are extremely valuable, right? So we started farming the majority of our natives here by collecting seed from our best plants and starting to propagate it out, right? We didn't have to buy wild collected seed or nothing like that. And the seeded plants are going to allow us to create new cultivars, allow us to breed a little bit, allow us to not put any pressure on the wild population, right? So now I give an example with the creosote that went into this salve. It's from 100% farmed creosote. So no longer am I harvesting creosote from a, plant that would be on my land natively. I'm harvesting it from, plants that I seeded out or cloned and planted out into the fields. And now we have thousands of these plants that I can harvest from. And that's why it cracks me up whenever I see creosote going for the cheap, because that's how you know it's all wild collected, when you're buying it online. Because out of every creosote plant, yearly, I can maybe get 8 to 16 ounces of product, of leaves, fresh leaves. Which means, you need literally fucking thousands of them to try to make a sizable raw product or something, right? And you can imagine also, based off that calculation, what wild harvesting of creosote or any of these native plants could do. Because it could completely destroy a population or a field or a piece of land, right? If you're just completely desecrating them, right? So I selectively pruned my plants those first years to get cuttings that I propagated through aeroponics or in soil, and also seed, which I did the same, propagating them. And now we're focusing on ambrosia dumosa because it's one of the most useful plants that we have here, as well as Mojave woody aster, the cheese bush, turpentine bush. These plants I think have high potential for California native landscaping, and nobody really is offering them. When people focus on California natives, they mostly focus on the forest and mountains and the coast. And the fucked up part about this, to be honest with you, is that when people are talking about xeriscaping, they're talking about drought gardens, dry farms. Where do you think those plants should come from? The fucking desert? Or the forest? Or the mountains where they're getting fucking 30 inches of irrigation? Come on now. Not even a question. So it's a little ridiculous to me that, most of the California native gardens, they're not using drought-tolerant plants, bro. I mean, something that is... I give an example. Lots of people love planting coastal California natives. And they fucking live in the desert, or, the Central Valley, or Northern California where it gets cold as shit. And I'm over here like, maybe we need to start talking about hyper local, you know, shit that's local to your county, to your ecosystem, because I think people got this shit like all confused and fucked up. You know, they think that a California native from NorCal is gonna be an amazing drought tolerant plant for area of SoCal that gets 5 inches of fucking rain or some shit. Just because it has California native doesn't mean 1, it's drought tolerant, or 2, is coral hardy, or 3, wind resistant, or 4, heat hardy. California has dozens of ecosystems, and these plants are all fucking living in different places, man. So, you know, if you're in Northern California, get some Northern California natives. If you're in Southern California, look for the plants that are native to your county, right? But anyways, getting back to this point that we're propagating out all of these plants because we see lots and lots of potential for them in gardens, and because they are all herbal native California plants, we're going to be growing them alongside all of our agave and cactus and utilizing them much like an agave and cactus, creating products out of them, right? We want to make products out of them so that we can sustain this ecosystem, right? And if I can make products out of the wild plants, it starts to, you start to look at your land a lot different, right? Because at the beginning, my concept or my mentality was like, okay, I am trying to create a farm. And now I realize, like, you know, man, I already have the farm. Now I just need to utilize the plants. You know what I mean? And that's the sad part a lot of the times when people are bulldozing all of their natives and virgin ecosystems and trying to plant this agave and cactus here or whatever other plant in California, that they just wanted to be a farmer most of the time. And if they knew about native plants and what the uses of these native plants and the products that you can make with these native plants, they would have seen that land already productive and would have day one begun to try to make stuff and make profit from that land. But in their head, the only way to make money from that land is to clear all these native plants and to plant a foreign plant. That is ironic, bro. That is, you know, idiotic, ironic. It's crazy. But we're definitely not going to be doing that here. And now I know how to keep the 99% of my land wild, right? And I'm going to be farming, you know, hundreds of acres of cacti and agave. But over time, I want to develop that slowly so that I do it correctly. And we're going to be, like I mentioned, overlaying the agave and cactus over a lot of the native plants and ecosystem. But we're only going to do that in a very small portion of the land. Most of the other land will be kept wild, and we're just going to be moving the goats on it as forage land, and then we're going to be boosting the grasses and the native plants so that we can have more ability to make stuff, right? So, yeah, the shit has flipped, you know. It's different when you can identify all these natives. But yeah, I guess now let's talk about, now that I told you what the goal was, right? Like, or why we're doing this, you know, I started to see, okay, let's make some products, right? Now we know all these plants. Now we know all their uses. What can we make out of it, you know? And the first thing that came to mind was obviously trying to replace products that we buy that maybe aren't made in the greatest ways possible. And, you know, for example, this balm salve that we made called Mojave Gold, which is made from, I could even list the ingredients. We got nothing to hide there, right? All non-GMO, all, you know, the plants that we used are harvested from plants here on the farm, no wild collection. And the main two are Laurea tridentata, which is creosote bush, and Ambrosia dumosa, which is white bursage, right? And then we're using as carrier oils grapeseed oil as well as sweet almond oil. And then we're using beeswax and lavender essential oils at times, or different essential oils like lemongrass to create, you know, our product of the balm and salve, right? But the main two ingredients, as I mentioned, native plants, right? Now, what products could, we start to replace with this balm salve, right? That I maybe was purchasing and not really a fan of the products that I was buying, right? Low quality products, you could say. Obviously a lip balm. So, not the hugest fan of little lip balm thingies because they're always fucking getting lost. And somehow I'm always buying a fucking 5 or 10 pack of them and only really use 1 or 2 of them apparently, and they all go to crap. But this Mojave Gold, I can use it as a lip balm, moisturizes my lips, and then I don't need to be dealing with all this cracked fucking lips, right? Because in the winter here, and especially in the summer, I guess it's not so much the climate as it is the wind, but these high wind times, man, without lip balm in a day or two, my lips are all cracked up and start to sometimes even bleed, right? So that's why lip balm is really important here. But the good part behind using Mojave Gold as a lip balm is that you're going to get some of the benefits of the ambrosia fumosa and creosote, which is anti-inflammatory, anti-microbial, antifungal, and antibacterial. It's got the ability to help a lot with dry skin and keep it moisturized, right? What other would be really important to live there? Oh, the anti-inflammatory too, right? So anti-irritation and anti-inflammatory, as well as getting rid of the dry skin, is really crucial, for me out here in the desert. I was grown up in LA, and my genetics is from Mexico and Guatemala, so I mean we weren't used to these types of climates, so the wind could be pretty tough on me, as well as my hands. I'm always buying hand lotion as well as hand creams to basically keep my hands moisturized as well, because when they crack, that can really start to irritate the crap out of you as a farmer, because obviously you're grabbing stuff all day, moving stuff all day, moving animals, plants, whatever, and not having proper use of your hands can really be a fucking huge irritation or frustration, So the dry lips and dry skin have pretty much been solved. I've gotten rid of my lip balms that I was not so happy, as well as the hand lotions, right? So a lot of these body products, a lot of these products that we're using on ourselves, I wasn't content. I'm not going to name the brands because I don't like hating like that, but I will describe what I disliked about them. You know what I mean? Lots of coloring that is questionable, lab derived coloring, right? So shit like Red 40, right? When instead of cochineal or a natural version, they were using questionable ingredients, and the sourcing of many of these ingredients are questionable. And when you want to buy high quality lip balm or high quality hand lotion, it can get pretty expensive because they use the high quality ingredients, right? So this is going to be a great thing for me, because obviously I get to save on not buying those products, but it's also helped me with the animals, right? So my dog maybe a few weeks ago got a leg injury. Looks like maybe at night he bumped into something or something fell on him, him being a little clumsy, and he had a small wound right on his paw that led to some serious inflammation on his leg, right? His leg basically got like 3 times the size, right? But because it was a small wound, I knew that it was because of that wound, right? So what I started to do is every day for I think it was 4 or 5 days, I applied Mojave Gold to my dog's legs, or to the inflamed leg, and on the wound. and it helped a lot with the wound healing. That happened in about a day and a half or 2 days. But the inflammation went away in only 4 or 5 days, and his leg went back to a normal size. Now, he's still limping. You know, the recovery is going to take much longer than getting the size back to the normal, or the dog leg size back to normal, and the wound healing. You know, there is some internal, pressure there, right, on the leg that needs to heal. And he's doing great now. He's back with the herd. You know, poor dude. He loves to herd goats and be with me, working all day. But he had to rest for a bit. And now we got him back up to where he's, able to use the leg again and walk on it a bit. Although he chooses not to still, because it probably still is a slight pain. But I still continue using it because obviously it can still, the Mojave Gold, because I said, these Ambrosia dumosa and the Laurea tridentata, the creosote, have antiviral, anti-inflammatory, anti-irritation, and help with healing wounds and help with management of pain. That's why I continue to apply it to my dog, because I want him to not feel as much pain and to feel some comfortability while he is healing, right? So this led me a bit to begin to use it on my goats, because I was like, wow, that worked really great for my dog. The goats are always crashing into things, getting little scrapes or cuts, or just they'll be fighting themselves sometimes, and then one of them gets a slight open wound in the head or something because they hit themselves too hard, right? And it's been working great, as well as on goats, with the wounds, the pain, the inflammation, cuts and scrapes, all of that stuff, right? So I'm really excited about this because it seems to be something very multi-purpose, right? So that's amazing, because the alternative that I was using for wounds, especially to seal them on their first day, was blue ketote or something like that. It's like a blue cap bottle spray that you just spray and whoosh, seals that shit up real quick. Great, but it's also like full of really cancerous chemicals and shit like that. So it's not the best shit to spray on your dogs or animals, right? Maybe on a dog it's okay, because obviously you're not going to eat the dog. But on a goat or something that might be consumed, these companies have said, hey, don't use this product, because they still have not concluded exactly what the effects on humans might be of consuming these products, right? So that screams kind of sketch to me, right? So I stopped using that for wound healing and now use Mojave Gold. And this balm salve has been great at healing small wounds and cuts and scrapes and stuff like that, right? But just getting to the point that for the dogs, I was using sprays and creams to help with inflammation, to help with joint pain, to help with healing, stuff like that. And the same with the goats. I'd buy sprays and creams for them so that they could have the same benefits. So now I mentioned the lip balm, the hand lotion. Now we've gotten even rid of dog and goat emergency product like that, right? So stuff that would be used for wounds and healing and inflammation and stuff like that, which is great too, because it's topical. And most of the times, like, I would love to give anti-inflammation pills to like my dogs or whatever when they get injured, but they don't want to take it. You know what I mean? They know. Like, I'll put it in their food and they're still like, nah, bro, I know you put some in there. So they're pretty intelligent. They know what's good for them sometimes too, because it's almost like they're telling me, I don't want that pharmaceutical shit, man. Because when I apply Mojave Gold to them, they love it. They throw their little paw out, or the goat will stand still. Which, if you know goats, they don't usually stand still. And let me apply it, which makes the whole thing way easier. Because sometimes I'm running trying to chase the dog, and this guy's like got a wound or something, and I'm trying to heal him, and he wouldn't let me spray his leg. So now that they actually like the product, it's been much more helpful in application. You get me? So that's a cool one that I'm really excited about, because unfortunately, animal products aren't ever to the quality standards that human products are put up to, right? And a lot of the times they don't really care what is going into these products, because they're going to be used on animals and not us. Whereas they know, oh man, well, if a fucking human gets something wrong with it, or we use a shitty ingredient, maybe we have some liability. But they, people don't think that way about animals, unfortunately, and maybe they should, right? That's kind of why we were trying to develop a product like this. Because again, after reading about the, uses that indigenous, Californians had for these plants, like the ambrosia dumosa and the creosote bush, right? We said, wow, like there's so many products we could replace, right? So we immediately started to seeing maybe a dozen plus products we could eliminate by just having it, right? So that was a good one, right? So the biggest, I think, effect it's had on me has been, obviously, a little embarrassing to talk about, but I'm sure so many farmers deal with it that I will talk about it, and that's dealing with foot odor and athlete's foot, right? I mean, I've dealt with athlete's foot since I was a kid, because, I ran track, I ran cross country, I played soccer, I did so many sports, and I always was a very active person, even to today, right? I mean, I've stayed in shape ever since I was a kid. And this is something that farmers, athletes, people that are working on their feet all day deal with, right? Especially if you're not taking your boots off, switching your shoes, switching your socks, and utilizing, moisturizers or whatever stuff, right? So what I would do is every day when I took a shower, I would put on, athlete's foot spray, which is basically if I'm not mistaken, it's like a copper fungicide type product, right? And this is where it gets a little sketchy, right? Because look, the product worked. That's why I used it for many years, because it would keep my feet odorless and it would get rid of the athlete's foot, right? Which sometimes can be your skin peeling, sometimes it could be the odor, sometimes you'll even see little bumps, right? Like if it's really, really hot and you don't change your boots and you're sweating in it all day, you might even start to get little bumps or irritations like that, right? So this fungicide basically that was approved for humans that we're applying to our legs, which once again, I'm not going to say the brands, but my dad uses it, my brothers, shit, every athlete I've ever fucking, ran with used it. Lots of us soccer players used it. A lot of farmers I know use it. And a lot of landscapers, construction workers, because we all have girlfriends, wives, whoever is of importance to us, saying, hey man, I want you to take your fucking shoes off if your feet smell so much, and I want to be smelling them, you know what I mean? So we have to apply these chemicals basically to our skin and feet to get rid of the issue, which, look, I'm grateful to that company for helping me with my foot issue, because that was all I knew at the time, right? But Mojave Gold, holding a lot of these properties of these two California native plants, right? The creosote and the white bursage. Well, they started to do the same effect for me, right? So this salve I apply to my feet every day in the morning and after I shower. And that cream keeps my skin really, really fresh, moisturized. And, not to sound, and some of my dude homies are listening, not to sound like a chick, you know what I mean? But it's like, damn, bro, my feet are flying. And, the odor has gone away completely, like almost permanently, right? So if I skip a day or two of not spraying my feet, like if I ran out and I had to order some more spray or something, foot spray, it always was an issue, like, damn, the odor's back, And if I went sometimes where they'd be out of stock a week, damn, the little bumps are back, the irritations, the inflammation, the redness. I'm like, man, this really sucks, you know, because sometimes I'd be working 15, 16 hours on my feet a day. And, you know, it's real tough to maintain your foot hygiene. You get me? So, okay, this Mojave Gold, you know, helped me with all of that stuff. Like I said, I apply it in the morning, and after I shower, keeps me moisturized, and it keeps the odor away. It keeps, you know, the little fungus from, essentially, what do you call it, you know, staying on your skin and you know, populating the bottom of your feet, you know what I mean, or your toe regions, or, you know, it stops the peeling of your feet. You know, these are all things that I honestly, I won't be telling you it if it didn't, you know, work on me, because this is something that's so, yeah, men deal with it so much that I wouldn't be bullshitting you. And, you know, as far as I know, this is like a huge men issue, but I'm really positive that women deal with it as well. You know what I mean? Especially women that are always on their feet working hard as fuck all day. And I was just like, wow, like, this is so amazing, you know, a chemical-free, non-GMO product, right, that we've made. And this product is made from California native plants, and we're using the herbal properties of these plants to replace a lot of the products that we were using for our hygiene. That's, you know, incredible. So it's helped a lot with my feet, just maintaining the health of them. And to be honest with you, it's also made them a lot softer and shinier, even when, you know, it's been 12 hours or whatever since I've applied that Mojave Gold to my feet, right? So this has been a real huge help for me. I'm really happy about it, and I hope to, you know, help more people with that. You know, I gave some to my pops already and my moms, and, you know, they're, my dad has athlete's foot as well, and he's always spraying, and, you know, he's been using it now, and he hasn't used his spray, right? So this is great, right? I mean, just if you don't know, your skin is your largest organ. Spraying fungicides on your largest organ to be absorbed is probably not a good idea, man. You know, you know, if it's crazy, man, because look, humans are basically a fucking colony of fungi and bacteria. While you look at yourself as this one human being with a conscience, if we put you under, you know, or in a lab or whatever and studied you, we'd find out that your ass is tens of thousands of different bacteria and fungi. And I know many of those are on our feet. And look, those fungicide sprays may work to get rid of our odors and, you know, athlete's fur or whatever, the fungi, but it's not distinguishing between good and bad. And that's the real issue here, because when you're using a natural product like Mojave Gold, you're not going to have the problem that it's, you know, destroying your beneficial, you know, call it fungi or bacteria, right? That's on the surface of your skin, which is needed. You know what I mean? This is something I learned when, you know, I had acne as a teenager, because a lot of the products that help you get rid of your acne are antibacterial, but your face has a lot of good bacteria, man, and they don't distinguish, right? So it's like, dude, it's crazy. As teenagers, we literally burn our fucking faces to not have acne. But, you know, what teenagers do to fit in, it's sad. But anyways, that's a whole other story. Let's get back to some of the different uses, right? So I explained a bit about the feet, the animals, the lips, the hands, all great. But, you know, now let's talk about some of the things that we've seen from talking with people that have bought it, right? So I know people that bought it from us are using it as a lotion on their skin, right? Their legs, their feet, their body, and are really content with how it's making their body feel, right? I give the example of my girlfriend here, Nori, that she has eczema and deals with sensitive skin, right? And people that have sensitive skin issues like eczema are always applying these different treatments or lotions, salves, balms, whatever, to their skin because it's always inflamed, it's irritated. They always have, you know, a slight allergy that may irritate their skin, you know, and it's really easy to have flare-ups, right? Sometimes they could get little bumps or redness or itchiness, and, you know, my girlfriend is, you know, a testament that it's helped with a lot of these things, right? Primarily the itchiness, the redness, the irritation, the inflammation. You know, these are things that it's really benefiting people with skin issues, right? Yeah, that's exciting to see, right? Because I may not utilize lotions or stuff like that to maintain, you know, my body moisturized, but a lot of women do. And unfortunately, a lot of those chemicals that they're putting on their body aren't the greatest things for their body, right? They're not made from real ingredients many times. They're made from synthetic things, which we don't know what the fuck they do to our body, you know? But anyways, it can help a lot with sensitive skin, keeping your skin moisturized and, you know, healthy. So that's a positive thing we've heard from people, and we're seeing it on ourselves as well. And I'm really excited about that, because that's another group of products that, you know, maybe have questionable sourcing, questionable ingredients, questionable ownership, questionable, you know, pick whatever you want from the list, right? And by creating a product that we know is high quality with high quality ingredients, natural ingredients, no GMO bullshit, we just know that this is going to be much more helpful for people, right? So that is why we've been really excited about the product. Now, for fucks, to be honest with you, because I knew about the pain mediation capabilities of these herbal California native plants, I started to use it on my torn meniscus, which I have 2 torn meniscus, unfortunately, on both my legs, because I had one on the right leg, and then I put too much pressure on my left leg to try to compensate, and now they're on both legs, and both my legs hurt. But, you know, the good part about this is that, you know, I use knee braces, I use lots of, you know, supports like that, right? And they've been slightly helpful, you know. They definitely don't manage pain at all, but they help prevent further pain by not moving your feet in really weird angles or whatever, right? So what I started doing is applying, you know, Mojave Gold, the balm salve, to my knees and my torn meniscus, right? Or menisci, is that plural? Who knows, right? Gotta ask my doctor families. Janet, if you're listening, what is it? But anyways, what I'm getting at here is that the pain has slightly started to dissipate or go away in my torn menisci or meniscus on both my legs. And I'm not gonna lie to you here. It's not something that's like, okay, it's getting rid of 100%, but it's getting rid of the extreme pain and a little bit of the consistent pain. So it's not like how would I describe it? So when you have a torn meniscus, you have consistent pain every single time you rotate your knee. Okay, so that's like everyday shit. But some days, when you work extra hard, it will get inflamed and create a ball on your meniscus. And that literally will be the most excruciating pain ever, bro. It sucks. And I've always dealt, you know, with that by taking pain medication or, you know, lots of different, pain things like salves that I'm not salves. I mean lotions or something that I would have put on it, right? And to be honest with you, none of them really helped. This has been a problem I've been dealing with for a decade. The only thing that has helped is the knee braces and, you know, stuff like that. So this Mojave Gold, one day it occurred to me, because reading about the uses, right, of these plants, I said, okay, well, I'm seeing that indigenous Californians used it as a topical for, you know, different pains and wounds and stuff, how we were talking about a little bit earlier. And then I said, okay, well, let's try it on the meniscus. And, it lowered the inflammation overnight. The whole ball went away that was on the meniscus from working hard the day prior. And then the pain was, maybe 20 to 30% less. That consistent everyday pain, because if you don't know, the only way to fix your meniscus is through extensive physical therapy or literally putting metal in your knee. So most people opt for the quick surgery to try to fix it, and then they have metal in their knee. Me, I've been, over the past decade trying to heal my meniscus slowly through physical therapy, and it's been a slow progress of lowering that pain from, probably the time I was like 23 or 24, where it was like 10 times worse. You know what I mean? Talking about gotta take pain medications every few hours to like not feel it, So now I don't do any of that shit. I'm putting the Mojave Gold, and it's sufficient enough at getting rid of the pain and getting rid of the inflammation that I can continue working and going on with my day. Now the pain is not gone away. The pain is still there, but the pain is tolerable, which to me is the most amazing thing ever, right? Like I'm not asking for a miracle. Just give me a little help so I can continue. You know what I mean? And thank God for Mojave Gold. Thank God for the indigenous that allowed me to learn from them and make this product, right? Because now it's really, really helping me with my knee issues. So that's been something that's really exciting me. I'd love to put Mojave Gold in different people's hands that maybe have some of these same knee issues and make sure that it's just not me, right? I would love to see if it has this effect on a wide range of people. This is also why we're working on the recipe, right? So I described to you, we use sweet almond oil as well as grapeseed oil, and in the future we want to just use our prickly pear seed oil as a carrier oil, right? And then in the more what do you call it? Well, in the future that's more close, we'll say, I'm gonna probably substitute some of the batches, the sweet almond oil with apricot oil, or not just me and Nori, right? Because we make it together. Just because we want all of these great benefits to not only be available to us, a good chunk of the population, but also people who may have nut allergies, right? So sweet almond oil wouldn't be, this Mojave Gold can help in lots of ways, but if you got some nut allergy, it may not be the best way for you, right? So that's something that, we're going to be working on. And, we'll use different carrier oils so that different people could utilize the base product, right? Because at the end of the day, the carrier oil isn't the most important part. It is these properties that are in the leaves of these California native plants, right, that we want to use the carrier oil to bring out. And, if one of our carrier oils doesn't allow some people to utilize it, then, we'll have other options available. So that's something we're going to be working on soon, right? But so in the near future, we'll be bringing out another batch with apricot oil instead of sweet almond oil, and eventually, hopefully, we can replace completely the grapeseed oil with prickly pear seed oil. So that will be something that's really exciting. Now, maybe the last use that we've identified, and like I said, as we're trying this out for different things, as we're doing our research and seeing what some of these chemicals in the plants are useful for, or what the indigenous traditionally use them for, we're finding more uses, right? And that's exciting because, it's already been, as I said, replaced a dozen products for us, right? So not only are we saving money, but we're having higher quality products go into our body, which is great. But yeah, the last thing I will mention today that this has been really helpful with is bug bites and irritation. So there's lots of fucking mosquitoes out here, man. And there's lots of, tarantula hawks, lots of little insects that could really fuck with you, And obviously they leave little bites. And this causes irritation, itchiness, redness, sometimes may even cause a little bit of soreness depending on what the insect was, right? I've been bit by that tarantula hawk, man, and it definitely causes some soreness after that. But the Mojave Gold has helped a lot. We saw in indigenous, when we were researching a lot of the indigenous uses, that they highlighted that this was something that they did the same thing. They applied it for mosquito and bug bites, and that it really, really helped lower the inflammation, the irritation, the redness. And obviously, as we were describing prior, it has antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal properties, which allow for, a clean healing, right? So that's something that, we've seen in real time now, right? It's funny because you read the research and you're like, okay, let's try it out, boom, make this out. But when you see what the research is saying in real life, bro, this shit's amazing, man, because you're just like, whew, I need to start reading more papers. Because there's so much cool shit in here, man. But, a lot, once again, going back to what the homie Fabio Raya, when he was talking to Chava in one of those podcasts, right, about mezcal, he was talking about how it's a real shame the amount of research that is just staying as research. And he was specifically talking about agave here, but I'll apply it to cactus and everything else, like California native plants. There's been literally like, I don't know, bro, millions of fucking data points that have been collected, observed, researched, but that's all it stays. And it just stays in these fucking papers. Nobody's making products out of it. And I was like, fuck that. I'm going to make some shit out of what I'm researching and reading about. And we did, and thank God it fucking worked, right? But, yeah, that was something that's really been helpful with us right now in the summer, because the mosquitoes are fucking crazy, bro. We have to have waters fresh, clean every day for the goats, and, we're getting rid of mosquito larvae that are in the waters or wherever every single day, and there's still tons and tons of them, man. And, nature knows why the mosquito's there, right? Like, it's a pollinator, whatever the hell. But the point is that it really fucks with humans, right? A lot of these bugs really fuck with us and create issues for us. And I'm glad that this Mojave Gold is helping me and Nori deal with that, and now other consumers and clients, right? It's pretty funny that one of the first people that bought our balm and salve must have really, really liked it, because immediately ordered a whole bunch more. But, we're excited to see that the product is really helping people, right? It's not like we're getting rich off of this, I'll tell you that much, right? I mean, like many of the products here on the farm, they're just to maintain everything that we're doing, No one thing is the main money maker, right? Like I always describe, which I like it that way. I'd rather have 50 ways to generate money from this farm than one, and when that one way is fucked, I'm fucked. So I have 50 ways, and when one way is not doing the best, or, I give an example right now, say spirits is down, people want to drink way less, right? Well, dude, I'm using my agave in so many fucking different ways. If I have to cut complete 100% spirits out of the future of this farm for profitability, I'll do it without even thinking twice. And, if in 10, 20 years it comes back to where it's extremely profitable, we'll pick it up again without thinking twice. But the point is that, we have so many different ways to generate, and this is just another one of them, this Mojave Gold. It is a great product, but, we mainly made it for ourselves because we were really disappointed in the stuff that we were using and buying. We're paying a lot of money for products that we're using on our bodies that were of poor quality, to be honest with you, and we weren't content with that. So we'd rather make our own And now that we know that it works for us in a variety of ways, we started to offer it to people. And now that they see that it works in a variety of ways, thank God we sold out about batch 1. Batch 1 is gone. We're going to work this weekend on batch 2, try to get some Mojave Gold out next week to clients. But like I said, it's just another day, another dollar. And, we're glad that we're able to use these native plants and provide benefits for people, right? Because that's the fucking point of a farm, man. The point of the farm is to grow stuff, be at one with nature, It's kind of like Avatar shit, man. Be at one with nature, and continue living our peaceful lives as farmers, And that's why I tell y'all, don't get set on one thing. Explore many products, explore many avenues of selling, of doing things differently on your farm, because you never know what might hit. And it may be that one day we're making 100,000 of these fucking little balm salves. Who knows? But I'll tell you what, we won't scale if it's not sustainable. You get me? We're not going to be wild collecting Ambrosia dumosa from thousands of acres or some shit. You get me? We'll only scale to what is sustainable. So if we can only farm enough creosote and Ambrosia dumosa to satisfy 1,000 orders, that'll be the cap. We'll move on to some other plant and figure out a product with that and continue, boosting the population of the plant so that the next year we can have more product. But the point is, whatever is sustainable, that's what we're going to do, It's like I was talking to my beekeeper homie the other day from Altadena, and I was telling him, I want some beeswax so I could have a higher quality beeswax going into our balm and salves, right? Because like for the carrier oils, we're using non-GMO, cold pressed, you could say, we're buying it from like a beauty brand. It's like, there's some pretty expensive shit. But because it's a high quality ingredient. And the beeswax, a lot of beeswax that you buy in the stores, they cut it. They essentially are using filler to create more product that they could sell you. Which, look, it's still a great product. That's where we make the initial Mojave Gold out of. But my point is, like I always explain to you guys, and growls, whatever the fuck you want to refer to yourself as, alien, whatever not. All of y'all. Sorry. What I was saying is that, for all of y'all, always be improving. And I saw a point of improvement there. I said, look, this beeswax is high quality. It's a great product that we're buying it from a great brand. I'm not going to name the brand or the beeswax. Again, don't like hating on people. I saw the beeswax as a commercially produced beeswax, which means it's, in my opinion, not the highest quality. And like I said, there's fillers and different ingredients that are in it to make it go further for people, right? And I went to my beekeeper homie and I said, hey man, I'd love to buy some beeswax off you, and I know that you're not gonna, give me with fillers. And I told him I'm totally fine paying more, For instance, we may be buying, I don't know, give an example, just a $40 for a pound of beeswax, right? And beeswax could have 1,000 different uses, but we're using it in this balm and salve, right? And that $40, sounds like a lot, but I was telling the homie, I'm like, look, I know that high quality beeswax, because you're not going to be using fillers, and you're going to be getting it, sustainably. I told him, whatever your price is, I'll pay it. And he told me, look, it may be, depending on how long it takes me, I'll figure it out. But it may be in between $60 to $100 a pound. And I said, no problem, bro. Because I want the high quality shit. You know what I mean? Because if I want to make Mojave Gold a better product, I have to improve every single thing, right? And I've explained to you, okay, the carrier oils, we're buying them today from a high quality brand, but in the future, will be the high quality brand producing the prickly pear carrier oil and be using our own product from the farm, right? Ideally, in the future, we'll be having our own beekeeping operation here. We've had bees in many years past, but they've always been friends bees. So, my homie Diego, My homies from Altadena, I got 2 beekeeper homies, these people will bring lots and lots of hives, and the bees live great here. But the point I'm making is that hopefully in the future, even the beeswax can come off of the farm, right? That's just one other thing I know how to do and I want to explore, but there's just not enough time for sometimes, But the point that I was getting at really here is that you always have to be improving. And I saw there was a point of improvement with the beeswax and the carrier oils, right? And the lavender essential oil that I mentioned. Now we're going to be making essential oils out of our own products here, like the Ambrosia dumosa and the, just different herbal native plants, that are really scented, like the Mojave woody aster, right? Really beautiful scent. This Ambrosia dumosa smells like fresh Christmas tree or pine or kind of citrusy. We want the essential oils that bring a lot of that smell to also come from the farm. So I see points of improvement, you get me, for Mojave Gold as a product. And over time, this is how you need to think too. You're using A, B, C, D, E ingredients. How can I make D better over time? How can I make B better over time? How can I make A better over time? You get me? Now, we already have the best high quality, in my opinion, fresh creosote and white bursage in the nation. Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm the only person actually farming it, That most people are just wild collecting from their native land, which they'll eventually run out of if they're any type of business. And over time, those native ecosystems will deteriorate if they are not cultivating the plant, right? And when you cultivate the plant, you get high quality leaves, right? So old creosote, not only is it unsustainable to harvest them, but it literally is an inferior product. So the leaves aren't as green. They're not as full of oils. With the Ambrosia dumosa, you don't get a blue, green, silver hue. You get some old looking blue, green, kind of just nasty growth. You know what I mean? And look, those plants can be cut back and can become better plants over time. But it takes several years. Whereas if I seed an Ambrosia dumosa from seed in 2 years, it'll be an amazing, beautiful little blue-green bush that I can use. And, those are fresh quality, high quality leaves. So my point is, by cultivating the California natives, we've reached a point of high quality leaves and consistency, sustainability of those leaves that are going into our products. And we're really proud of that. I'm happy that, this product is contributing to maintaining our land, virgin land, and a native ecosystem, right? If I can profit from the natives, wow, that sounded kind of weird. If I can profit from the native plants and do it ethically and sustainably, then why not? I'm essentially putting myself back hundreds of years, which is not a bad thing. I don't know why people, I see many agricultural systems that were, 500, 1,000 years old, more advanced than the shit we have today. You know what I mean? But anyways, going back to this indigenous way of looking at things, that I don't have a bunch of worthless ass desert land. I have this herbal scrubland that is full of plants that are, herbal medicines that have 1,000 different uses, much like agave cactuses in its different regions, right? And now I'm definitely never getting rid of another native plant ever, because I know what I can do with them, and we're gonna just be making more and more and fucking more of these native plants, because I'm really excited about all the opportunities with them, and I can't wait to introduce to y'all more products than Mojave Gold. We're testing lots of different things, and this isn't the only thing we're going to be bringing out. It just is one of the products that we felt was ready for y'all, right? Because after seeing it help us in so many different ways, then I knew, okay, this is now ready for other people to benefit from, right? If I imagine I put it on me and it just fucking like didn't do anything, right? I would have felt like a fraud trying to sell you a product that doesn't work. And now I'm really confident, in selling this product because I use it myself and I know it's great. And my family uses it, thinks it's great. My clients use it and think it's great. And that the proof's in the pudding, as they say there, right? A lot of these farmers, many of them don't even eat their own crops, utilize their own products made from the crops that they grow, right? That tells you everything about what that farm is, to be honest with you. And farmers that are scared of their own crops. It's a sad reality we live in, but farmers like to act ignorant or like they don't know what the fuck they're feeding us and giving to us in our products. But they very much do know, because of the fact that I see that many of them do not consume those products. So you cannot deny knowledge of what these products do and then go with the same hand and say, I won't consume them. You get me? As I always tell y'all, when when a farmer doesn't want to be involved with his own crops, that farm is a piece of shit. Sorry to be so blatant, but it's true, man. I mean, the amount of farms I've been on that I wouldn't touch at all, the fucking shit that was coming off that farm, very numerous, and look at the studies that just came out this week, right? Like reinforcing what I'm always telling you, that a lot of Napa wine is just full of fucking pesticides and a bunch of chemicals and shit, and Napa's the tip of the iceberg, man. If you investigated California agriculture, you would see a slew of patterns of, to be honest with you, I look at it like it's a fucking chemical warfare against our ecosystems. You know what I mean? Like, look at the OC Creek team, which, by the way, shout out to them. Did some great investigations on Roundup in the Orange County creeks. I commented straight up on that. I'm like, you guys think that's bad? I'm like, don't investigate California agriculture because you guys are gonna basically try to murder us or something. It's like, imagine if thousands of gallons of Roundup is causing such damage to creek, rivers, and ecosystems in Orange County. What it's doing in LA. California sprays millions of gallons of fucking Roundup in our forest, and we say that we are green, that we are sustainable stewards of the ecosystem here in California. We like to put ourselves on a fucking pedestal, you know what I mean? But we're just as bad as everyone else, you know what I mean? And, thousands of gallons, that's nothing, man. I know farms that are spraying tens of thousands of gallons. And where do you think all that shit goes? The same shit that they're investigating into our waterways, into our soil, into us. And, a lot of the problems that people have as humans today, it's not random, I'll tell you that much. As we've changed our ecosystems, as we've changed our farms, our agricultural systems, we have basically started to free fall into bad health. So I don't think that's a fucking random thing there. We have looked at the ecosystem as an enemy, and now it's fighting back, and we're like surprised. I don't want to turn this into a philosophy podcast, but that's shit's crazy, man. But anyways, just to fucking reinforce the point that we're extremely proud and have nothing to hide behind this product, and I'm glad it's helping lots of people, and hopefully maybe one day you give us a chance and want to order one and it helps you. But the point of this podcast was not to try to sell you on a balm and salve. It was to explain to you a mentality of how we're using our native plants to farm them, to cultivate them, and generate some revenue, generate some profit. And that all goes back into the things we talk about every day. agave cactus, maintaining our ecosystem, maintaining our farm sustainability, all of that. And, just keep on going on, y'all. If you want to maybe, consult with me about how maybe you could use some of your native plants to create products, then, always here to help y'all. I talk with many farmers a lot of the times, and they're talking to me about the native plants that are on their farms as nuisances when, they really should be looking at them as a miracle. Well, I'll leave you on that one. Have a great rest of the day, y'all. Hope you enjoyed this little bit different episode of Agave and Cactus Talk. And, I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one. Peace. Agave and Cactus Talk out.